Hello, I'm Karma Kitaj, and I'm your host for A Livelihood, New Adventures as We Age. And today I'm going to introduce you to Chuck Yanikoski. And Chuck has made a number of changes in his life, and he's going to tell us how that has been for him. Welcome, Chuck.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Good to have you here. So I know you told me your life story in capsule summary.
And you're still awake?
The other day. I'm still awake. Well, there were a lot of changes.
There have been.
Yeah. And I remember you're telling me that you consider yourself to have been a dropout. But
yes.
You've dropped out from some of the best places, right?
That's what I tell people. I'm not sure it's helped me a lot in my career, but it's true. I started out by dropping out of Harvard. I didn't go there with the intention of dropping out, but I look back at being 17 years old when I applied and just kind of assumed I'd get in. I mean, I had no reason. I mean, I had a long history of people who went there. I had good grades in school. I was a nerdy student, and I'm still a nerdy person, but I don't know. I just thought I'd get in, and I did apply to some other schools and didn't get into all of them, but I got into Harvard, so that's where I wanted to go, so I went.
But I think then you told me that you actually got into graduate school.
I did. Not many people even know that's a possibility, and I didn't either. But my older brother was earning a PhD in the subject of higher education at the University of Chicago, and since he was studying higher education, he actually read the charter of the university he was attending, and he found out that it was in their charter that you didn't need to have an undergraduate degree to get into their graduate programs.
Wow.
I don't know if there's any other university in the country that does that, and they don't advertise it, but it's there. So he said, if you'd like to see if you could get in, I'll negotiate for you. And he was a champion debater in college, so I said, okay. And so he went to see them, and I chose the University of Chicago Divinity School because I was familiar with their philosophy program. I had been studying philosophy, and I didn't like it. So I thought, well, theology is the next closest thing. So they had me jump through all these hoops, and I got through all the hoops, and they not only let me in, they gave me a full scholarship. But I did that for a year, and then I dropped out because I kind of figured out what I wanted to figure out, and that was whether I wanted to go into an academic life. And when I saw it up close, I realized I didn't want to do that.
You mean you had thought about teaching in a
well,
university?
Possibly. I mean, what I was really interested in was learning and studying, and I thought, well, maybe instead of doing this on my own, I should be in a community of scholars. It makes sense in theory, but I thought, well, this is an opportunity to check it out, and if it looks good, to get on that path. I mean, they actually wanted me to enter the PhD program. Okay,
so you left University of Chicago.
I did, dropped out of there, and without a degree. So I have my high school diploma, and that's really all I have to show for my studies on paper. But I went into the insurance industry because they were hiring. I won't go into detail about what I had figured out for myself, what the purpose of my life was, but the bottom line was that I felt free to pursue a more or less normal life. So even though I started out as a renegade, and I actually continued to be a renegade in some of my jobs, which is why I kept getting fired from them, but still, my career path wasn't that unusual. Once I got into my mid-20s, I kind of got back on the path that most other people were on. So
you say, Chuck, that understanding that through your studying, your self-study courses, that you came to some conclusion about life.
Well, I did,
so
actually,
I'm interested to hear. I think you said you understood that life was essentially meaningless. Well, yes. I think you have to look at life from two different perspectives. And I think if you try to look at it objectively, and kind of take away all the things you were taught about, about religion or about morality and things like that, and then examine them critically, you find that there's really no basis for them. I spent a lot of time studying the theory of evolution. I read probably 100 books
on the subject of evolution, including the evolution of the universe and biological, and then where did the human mind, how did that come about? And not that I don't want to say I understood all those things or made great intellectual breakthroughs, but I do accept the theory of evolution as the best explanation of how we got here, and I also accept the idea that that's how all the other living creatures got here too, and that even though we're special, other creatures are special in their own way. We're special in our way, but we're not a different kind, like a totally new kind of thing in the universe. We are the way we are because our species evolved the way it did, and because we evolved, it was helpful to our species that we had these ideas and these feelings that bind us to one another. So and so there's a natural kind of respect for authority, for law, for the ideas of right and wrong, for obligations to other people. These are built into us. And so the conclusion I came to was that even though objectively those things, they don't correspond to reality, there is no absolute right and wrong, there's no super creature out there who's going to judge us. But we are who we are. And to say, well, just because there's no objective right and wrong means I can be bad. Well, yeah, you can be bad, but you're not going to be happy if you're bad, because that's not the way we're built. The way to have a good life and a happy life, fulfilling life, is to join in the game, join in the spirit of it, and treat other people well, and strive to do things, even though objectively well, it doesn't matter what I die, 1 billion years later, it's not going to have made any difference. I've never really, since my 20s, and I came to these decisions and this way of looking at life, I've never had any, any real crises or doubts, and I think very comfortably about the fact that if I'm lucky, I'm going to age, and whether I'm lucky or not, I'm going to die. I'm perfectly fine with that.
So let's talk about your New England life stint. You were there for quite a long time.
Well, that's how I was there for 18 years. That was my first job. The insurance companies were hiring at the time I was looking for a job in the mid-'70s. So I went there, and I had a variety of jobs. It was really great. It was good to work in a company like that because they did all kinds of things. Once you got in, you could move around to different departments. I learned all kinds of things that have helped me since then. And one of the things that I did while I was there for a couple of years, I was in charge of a group that was exploring how to talk about retirement and to teach that to our people, our financial reps in the field, so that they could talk with their clients and prospects about it. That's how I got interested in retirement and in aging. So any problem I've tackled, including retirement, I've always said, okay, let's forget what everybody else is doing. Let's forget what everybody else said. Let's go back to the beginning. What is this problem really about? What do people need? And let's give them what they need.
Okay. So what have you been doing working for yourself?
Well, my biggest... there are two things I've done that I think are special since I've been on my own, both related to retirement. One was an idea I actually had at New England Life, but I wasn't in a position to do anything with it. And that was to create a financial model for people who are either already retired or who are going through the retirement process currently or within a few years of being there. So I ultimately went into the software business, not because I wanted to be in the software business, but because that was the only way to do the thing that I decided I really wanted to do, and it was going to be my contribution to the world if I was going to have one. And that was to come up with a new way to help people make really good financial decisions when they're retired. But again, as I say, it's too advanced. It's too advanced for the industry. We do have we set up a consumer subsidiary called Retirement Works Inc. And it's people who are consumers and want the software can go there, and if they put in some credit card information, they can license it individually. And we find that individuals like it because it's very thorough and detailed, and they feel like, oh, finally somebody's asking me about all these things that I know somebody should be asking about, but the big guys don't.
So is that what you refer to as the splash model?
Well, the splash model actually incorporates that. A few years ago, once we had the financial model built, Then, I was calling this a holistic model because within the financial community it was holistic in the sense that we were trying to answer, 20 or 25 questions simultaneously, whereas everybody else was looking at them, if at all, one by one. And I just felt, well, that's not the right way to do it because they all affect one another. You're going to get a series of wrong answers if you answer them one at a time.
So if anybody wants to look up your material, they'd go to...
Yeah, and that part is free. The software we charge for, but all these other references, and I use it myself. There's an incredible amount of stuff there.
Yeah.
And
okay, well, we're going to have to wind up.
Well,
so thank you for this. I think we covered a lot of territory.
We did. Thank you for inviting me. It's been fun.